Hello, everybody. Happy Prime Tuesday. Thank you for spending your evening with us or your day wherever you may be. As you know, I'm Vicky Soma, and this is How Would You Slice That? And what we're trying to do is just have a little bit of 3D printing community time together and also combined it with some discussions on slicing. Maybe we'll go over tips and tricks or some strategies or maybe a tour of a new slicer. With me, as always, is Dr. Lawrence Nightingale. And if this is your first time to the show, what you need to know about Lawrence is that he is an educator and a 3D printing advocate from Alexandria, Virginia. He has facilitated instruction for 3D printing for over 500 people in the Northern Virginia area. He has been 3D printing for 11 years, and his first platform was one of those early wood frame Prusa i3s. He has done extensive research on the effects of 3D printing on community college students, and he's spoken on that, including at the National Maker Faire, and he was one of the initial speakers for the East Coast Rip Rap Festival back in its baby days in 2018. Most recently, Lawrence has decked the halls with 3D printed holiday ornaments. His Christmas tree this past year was 100% all ornaments that were 3D printed. Thank you, Lawrence.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for another Prime Tuesday. I love those Prime days. So, and it's good to be back here again with you. And of course, my co-host is Vicky Soma. Vicky is an innovator in 3D printing. She was one of the first people that I know to use multicolored 3D printing on a grand scale. Her first 3D printer was a Maker Gear Mark II, where she took highly designed gifts and ornaments, and she started her own Etsy business, selling and designing ornaments and decorations for people. Vicky has done something that you haven't done. If you're listening to the show, it's almost guaranteed. She has 3D printed a character in a Hollywood production. She 3D printed a pagoda that actually played a role in a Lifetime Christmas movie. So there you go.
Hallmark Christmas
Hallmark
movie.
Christmas movie. Hallmark. Thank you. Vicky has been instrumental in the 3D printing community in organizing the formerly known as the East Coast Rip Rap Festival, now to be known as the 3D Printopia. She is very, very involved with the they're not soapbox cars. They're the
This
soapbox
3D
derby
printed
cars,
derby.
3D printed derby, and which will be coming up in October at 3D Printopia. And so it's very, very good to be with you again, Vicky.
Yes. And why don't we just get right to our guest, unless you have any Lawrence news to share?
Only thing that I have to share is that I have been trying to learn about building with bamboo for like the last year and a half, and I finally built an element for my garden out of bamboo
Oh
on
my gosh. I thought you meant the Bamboo Lab printers. I'm
different
like, oh, I didn't know you can get them as kits. So real bamboo in your garden.
real bamboo structural stuff in my garden. More to come though. Yes, and I do have a bamboo mini with AMS, as do many of us who are part of the community.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I got going on that is notable. Not exactly 3D printing related, but I will be using my 3D printer to make connectors and fasteners for my bamboo structures. So
Oh, nice. Well, that'll be
yeah,
neat to see. And then we'll have to change your introduction too.
we will. We will.
Most recently, Lawrence has 3D printed connectors for his bamboo.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you for editing it early on, and it will be real in probably about 60 days.
All right.
Yeah.
But we'll still be doing the show then. Okay. Um, I would like to go ahead and roll into our guest. Um, as you may know, I have a soft spot in my heart for those who combine 3D printing with other crafting techniques. And I also have a soft spot in my heart for those who are women who put themselves out there, are visible, and they help demystify 3D printing for other people. And tonight's guest has executed both perfectly. She is the owner of a craft based small business Her experiments and her products incorporate a wide gamut of techniques. You'll see 3D printing, of course, as well as laser cutting and Cricut projects, which Lawrence wants to ask about. She's worked with vinyl and acrylic and resin. She's combined 3D printing with jewelry making, 3D printing with epoxy or resin, 3D printing with wax seals, and 3D printing with sublimation. And the reason I know all this is because she also takes the time to put together and edit detailed videos, sharing her processes and her tips and her findings on her YouTube station, which I hope you all will subscribe to. And I should mention that she's done all of this in just a year. Her first video on YouTube was July 1st, 2023. And then I should also mention, if this isn't impressive enough, is she's also a parent. And as Lawrence and I both know, that is one of the most time-consuming passions one can have. So very impressive,
Absolutely.
everything that she's accomplished. So tonight, we are very happy to welcome, let me see if I can pronounce this, potentialite. It's a new word that I learned. And the force behind Labcraft Studios. We're welcoming Sarah. Hello.
You're muted, Sarah.
It was the one thing I had to do before starting. If you've been to any of my live streams, the chaos can reign there too. So let me try this again. Hi, I'm Sarah. This is my studio back here. So thank you so much for having me on.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Absolutely. So what, I mean, we'll just jump right into it. What do you think, Vicki?
Well, Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself that I didn't hit on the introduction, maybe?
Sure. So like you mentioned, I kind of started this, believe it or not, about a year ago. I'm one of those people that gets easily distracted, likes to do all things. It was one of those things where I kind of fought it most of my life. And then I stumbled onto I think it was a TED Talk actually on YouTube. I just had my daughter about this concept of multi-potentialite and people who just want to do all of the things. And it was like, okay, it's not a problem that I like to do all of the things and I, like to bounce around, and maybe I should embrace this and kind of find, what I want to do. So, and of course that was like, 6 years ago, but about 5 years ago, I really wanted to try and sort of create my own little small business. As an aside, I moonlight because I work at night. I'm a physician assistant actually during, regular day hours. And I was kind of looking for something to do on the side, something that really kind of embraced creativity and all of that. And I'm trying to remember what caused me to look into 3D printing and laser cutting and all of that. I feel like I stumbled onto like a website or something that had like dollhouse furniture. And I thought that was just so pretty and a neat idea. And I kind of fell down that rabbit hole with laser cutting and then 3D printing, trying to kind of figure out how to build what I wanted to build, create jewelry and things like that. And I was sort of running into which works better. My truth be told, I actually think trying to mimic enamel pins might have actually been what caused me to kind of into 3D printing. And I've played her. Yes, I finally landed on some success in the last couple of months, actually, on how to get them to look the way I want. These actually get printed. I do several on a sheet to minimize waste and all of that. And then once they're done, I usually throw a layer of UV resin on it. I actually kind of just for the fun of it, if you like click into my YouTube shorts, played around. Yes. I just kind of started recording it. I was like, that's just sort of that space where it's like, maybe somebody will like this. And it turned out a lot of people did. So, but I also kind of like teaching. I'm one of those people that likes to talk to herself a lot. You can ask any of my family. I like to talk to myself a lot. And it was one of those, well, if I can talk to myself, why not try and talk in front of a camera, share my ideas. I like showing people these things. And it also gives me this motivation to experiment a little more. It's like, could I make a video out of this? So that's kind of me. I'm a mom, like you mentioned. I have a daughter. She's almost 7. And when she wants to grow up, she thinks, working in medicine is cool, but she also says, well, I want to be an engineer. I want to create things. Like she sees mommy doing all of this and she's like, nobody has just one career, right? Yeah, you do all the things. So which when she told me that, really, that definitely felt that. I was like, oh, that makes me feel good. So
yeah, wonderful.
So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. And Sarah, when did you first when did you get your first 3D printer? How long ago was that?
So I got my first 3D printer. I went back and looked. I ordered my first 3D printer in February of 2023. I started with yes. I had been kind of looking at it before at the like I think a year or so prior when I was looking at Christmas gifts. It was one of those where it's like, do I want to add another hobby, because I was already kind of doing Cricut cutting and such.
Yes,
and at that time I only was really familiar with like the resin 3D printers.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, and that was two things with that. One, my husband really wasn't a fan of that. He's like, that's a lot of fumes, toxicity kind of thing. And I definitely do understand that. And the other one was there just seemed like there was this higher barrier to entry. I'm secretly a little lazy, and it was like, okay, I have to learn how to level. I have to learn how to then process the prints and do all of the washing and all of that. And it was like, that's too much. And then I kind of stumbled onto the FDM model. I think I was watching a course on Domestica on 3D printed jewelry, and I saw that and I was like, oh, this seems much easier. And that kind of got me curious. So my first printer I got last year in February was an Ender 3 V2 Neo. It was marked as like a good entry model. I will say when I got the box, I spent like, I think it took it like an hour to put together. I watched a YouTube video how to do it. And I remember thinking, this is partially assembled. Oh my gosh. But I was so excited. Like the first time I like clicked the little, okay, I've got two models. I've got this Benchy and I've got this rabbit. I'm a girly girl, so I'm going to do the rabbit. And I was super excited when 40 minutes later, I've got this little miniature rabbit. So that was where I started.
And that's where you got that thrill, that moment, and that addiction started?
Yeah, I was like, this is really cool. What else can I do with this? And my undergrad actually happens to be in fine arts. I have a BFA in fine arts as my undergrad, and I did 3D animation and modeling. That was kind of the area I focused on. So I have a little bit of that background. I hadn't really touched anything in 10 years. So I'm having to learn some of that again, but that has helped a little bit, I think, especially in getting into like slicing space and things like that, is they still sort of have those basics and that, those concepts going for me.
Wow.
But I'm not afraid to make mistakes, learn how to deal with things.
Right.
And you're also not afraid of being visible and transparent. I think on Sarah's YouTube station, she also has some videos about her journey of YouTubing, and her first video that went viral and how it wasn't exactly what she expected. Do you want to talk a little bit on your YouTube experience? Or?
Yeah, so I started, like you said, I posted my first video a year ago. And it's kind of funny because everybody talks about you should do, these things. You should post consistently, 1 to 2 videos a week. You should, really optimize your thumbnails and your editing and all of that. And I feel like what's taught in the land of how to become a successful YouTuber isn't reality. Everybody thinks you'll be successful very quickly. And it honestly took some time, and you have to really pray for the YouTube algorithm gods to bless you. I had this really neat idea with Cricut cutting, like getting a full page of stickers, because that's one of those things that's really always bothered me with Cricut cutting. If anybody's done any of the print and cut, you've got it will print it on a sheet, but it has these markers so that it can basically measure where it needs to go, make sure that the paper, understand where the paper is on the mat, essentially. And it wastes almost 25% of the sticker paper. It just felt like such a huge waste. And I had noticed they had pulled out recently in some updates where it's like, well, if you wanted to, you could print on a, like a tabloid sheet of paper, an 11 by 17. And so if you wanted an 8.5 by 11 inch sticker, you could print that. And I'm like, well, why not try and, fix that? And I kind of got to thinking about how I sort of addressed precision with like my laser cutter, in that I would usually make a jig. So that was kind of what prompted me trying to do that with, a full page of Cricut stickers. And this was like a couple months later, like it was February of 2024. I remember sending my husband a little screenshot. It's like, look, I hit 20 subscribers. It's taken, 8 months. And that video dropped, and I picked up like 500 within a month. I went crazy. I mean, for a little channel to have a video hit, that many views so quickly was kind of viral. It was kind of crazy. But it also is one of those things where you have to kind of learn to ride the roller coaster a little bit, because you never know what happens. The sublimation video that I did actually last July, when I was playing around with, pressing, trying to sublimate prints and pressing them with the heat press and all of that, I made back in July, and it had done pretty good. I think I remember looking at my statistics June 30th going, oh, it's at 1,100 views. That's pretty good. And then something happened on the 1st of July, and now it's up to 19,000.
All right.
Yeah. I'm like, I have no idea why. I'm like, I have no idea what prompted it suddenly to go on everybody's feed. But so this was my second one. This was me. I had actually done this a couple weeks prior to the other one going viral, and this was an updated version. And I think this is a better method. I saw a short, I think it was from Filament Story. She had done something similar, and I was like, I wonder if I could sort of augment this to work with my bamboo machine. Primarily, I think the biggest challenge with it was, how do I get it in the right spot so that when I go to put my print on the board, it's going to print exactly on the top. And so figuring out how to basically kind of sort of cheat. I had it basically draw just a shape, like a little square border of just outside of where I wanted the paper to go, and then placed it on that. But I also like being able to show people, how things don't always work. Like, for instance, the first time I actually did that, I just kind of taped the 4 corners and discovered the paper warped. And I'm like, oh. So I was like, learn from my mistake. Tape the entire thing down. Just trust me on this.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I think how I found you was from this sublimation, which I'm on a women's Facebook, women in 3D printing Facebook group, and someone had done sublimation, and they mentioned your tutorial, and so that's how I found you.
Yeah, that's I've had a lot of people like say, "Oh, I saw this on like a a forum or something like that," and I was like, "Really?" I guess I've really kind of been the only one that sort of played with this. So it was like, how do you get color onto a 3D print that doesn't necessarily involve, having the additional, material management systems? And of course, there's always that conundrum of dealing with the poop, as we, like to affectionately refer to it. And so I was looking for an alternative method that works.
You definitely found it. We're glad that you did.
Yeah, I actually had somebody post or comment on it today. They used the Cricut infusible ink in infusible sheets. She got one of those infusible sheets, and I guess they have like the markers where it works the same way with sublimation. She's like, I did that, I drew on it, and I put it down. She's like, and it worked beautifully. So I'm like, yay! So I'm inspiring other people to experiment as well, which makes me so happy.
Absolutely.
Yes, you inspired me as well, which is, I've never worked with this, or it was not on my radar. And I'm a Filament Stories fan too. I just missed it. And so, came up in the Facebook groups, and I'm looking into it. Now, over here, I don't have a sublimation printer. There's one at a library, but I couldn't make my way out there. But going down this rabbit hole, I think there is a YouTube video by Teaching Tech, and he had a 2-part video on sublimation, and the second part was things that came from his commenters, which was you can use a color laser printer and transparency sheets. So I got to play with that, and that was it was kind of fun.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I was like, I have like a laser printer because I want to play with like hot foiling a little bit. And my brain was like, okay, so if I transfer the laser onto the printer, can I then like, try and hot foil it? So it's on my to-do list to try. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. I just bought the transparency sheets from Amazon and had them there. And actually, here I can throw up a picture of my little baby, my hacky. There you go. So this, I have a whole collection of floral benchies now. Just that, I print like rhododendrons or mountain laurel or azalea up on the transparency sheet, and then print on top of that. And I noticed in your video with the sublimation, it looks like you had to wash the paper off. This not a problem. These things just want to pop right off. And in fact, that's a consideration when you're printing. Oh, I have a video. Hold on. Throw that up. But here we go. Let it start over. But yeah, it just comes right off. So the first time that I tried this, it turns out when you're taping down a sheet on top of your bed. This was with the Prusa Mark III. It does its little calibration, but I think I read subsequently that the Penda, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, the Penda is working through magnetism, looking for something metal, and the sheet doesn't really impact that. So the first time that I was doing this, it was too close and was a disaster, big fail. But hey, with 3D printing, we are all used to fails. And because it's not that attractive to the plastic, or I mean, what's the right word? It doesn't stick. It comes off. Yeah, like just a little bit of that over extrusion, knock the nozzle, and it just comes right off. So it is. Yeah.
So with it being on the transparency sheet, do you have a problem with the PLA or whatever material?
Once I was using a natural PLA. Once I just adjusted my Z end saw or my live Z height, it was good to go. And I mean, it seems like the conversation's going this way, so I'll just do a couple little tangents here real quick. Sorry. Usually,
I'm curious. Like my brain's going. I don't have a color laser printer. I can just sense my husband downstairs. No, don't do it. Don't do it. You have enough. I do. I have like multiple, like just regular printers. So he's like, don't do it.
So the first time I did this, naturally my MK3, my Mark III was at a negative 1.150. Oh, Lawrence, we should step back. This is an education opportunity. We will talk about this live Z height here. This is from the Prusa documentation. So what we're seeing here is just a picture of kind of like the hot end with the Prusa, and it learns you can jump in if you want, or if I mispronounce anything. This is our little Penda sensor that's when you're starting a print, it's going and measuring those different areas of your bed, getting a picture of your bed and kind of the topography of it. But what it doesn't know is how far is it from the Penda sensor to your nozzle. And I should probably check chat if I'm mispronouncing things, but I'm right here. Okay, so when you're printing and you see that maybe you're too far or too close to the bed, and a lot of your printers, you can adjust that Z height right live. And so that's what I initially did with my transparency sheets. And so when I just cut off like just 0.15, then hey, everything was good. Then I wanted to go back and print something normal. So then I had to go and readjust my Z height because there's not a transparency sheet there. Well, one thing, if you don't want to go back and forth, that is something that you can tackle in your pre-slicer, in your slicer. Under your printer settings, you have a little Z offset here. And so what I could do is just have a profile. Hey, this is going to be for my sublimation hack with the transparency sheets, and I'm going to increase it. The important thing here is it's not a full number. It's just the difference of what you want to do to what the printer is already set to. So I just wanted to up it by just that 0.15, make it up a little bit higher. And so then I can just slice things for sublimation or slice things for normal. And in essence, it's not rocket science what it's doing. It's just updating the positions in the G code. So this is like a normal little benchy slice with my normal starting height of 0.2. And then this is the adjusted one with the slicer adding that 0.15 to every layer height.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So, hey, we
Bring-
keep things on your toes on how do you slice that. So here we go. I've shot my wad early in the. Oh, is that awful to say? No, I've. Goodness, we're not
You made it work.
monetized.
Just gonna leave
You
that
made it
one alone.
work. You made it work the way it should, and that's important. So yeah. And you know, and like you literally, you know, you had a print failure that turned out a little bit splotchy, and you figured out how to do it, and now you can save it for future projects, and that's sweet.
To make my Flora Vinci collection grow.
Yes, you know, when I heard that you had actually done sublimation printing, Vicky, I thought that you had actually printed in PET G. So I'd actually had an intro for you to say that you have made history, but once again, PLA, which is okay. You know, it's wonderful, of course. Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely one of those people that likes to print in PLA if I can swing it. And that was one of the things I really liked about doing the sublimation. And part of me is thinking, I wonder if I could like just use the transparency paper and run it through my sublimation printer, or for that matter, even my inkjet, see if it works. Like I'm going to have to just get some transparency paper to try that. But one of the nice things about doing the sublimation in the printer is that even the PLA is still going to be hot enough to activate the sublimation ink and cause it to transfer. Because with my original one, the challenge was if you're trying to like sublimate after you've printed it, like trying to do it on a flat print, you have to deal with that. Is there enough infill, and will it handle the heat from sublimating? And so that's too much a lot of times for PLA, you know, it's a bit heat sensitive. So it's too much, you know, once it's cooled, and PET G worked much better with that. But the nice thing about it is when you're printing with PLA is it's coming out, you know, pretty molten hot. It's coming out hot enough that it's going to activate that process, and you don't have to worry about then possibly compromising the model integrity.
Wow. Well, that it's interesting, like changing the process in order to kind of get there a little bit faster, which is really fascinating. That affects how you slice those things too. Tell us about how you adjust your Z, or tell us the how direct the process is when you're using your bamboo. You've got something on the build plate. Tell us about your process. We heard about Vicky's.
So yeah, for sublimating on the bamboo, one of the nice things about the bamboo is that it you really don't have to play with that Z-axis adjustment. I actually just kind of ran it through the machine with my standard settings, and it worked perfectly. My only challenge was I needed a plate that was smooth so that the paper would actually adhere. Like the bamboo ships with a really nice PEI plate. I mean, things pop off really well with that, but I could not get my tape to stick to that. It did not want to work. So I happened to have one of those they're like the smooth plates that let you kind of get that holographic effect.
Yes,
and it had just been sitting there. I hadn't even like hauled it out to try it. Yeah. And they're super smooth. I hadn't even hauled it out to try it, and opted to do that. And it worked really well. It was nice. It was smooth. Yep. That's the plate right there. And it has a cool effect, by the way, if you're just wanting to like make the bottom of prints holographic, just make sure you throw a layer of hairspray on it, because nothing will stick if you don't do that. I learned that mistake the hard way too. I was like looking at it going, it's like, no, it's not sticking. Oh crap.
Now, Sarah, I got a question for you about
Mhm.
the different. You talked about Cricut and also about bamboo and how direct the bamboo is and how it kind of is turnkey. I personally have had challenges with trying to do things or get into the world of Cricut because it's SVGs and moving SVGs into print or into cutting them, or there's a little bit of CAM in there as well. You also talked about laser cutting.
Mhm.
But the Cricut is ubiquitous. But can you tell? And it seems like it's a little bit harder to execute, and 3D printing is less so, but much easier to execute, in my opinion. How have you found the two different worlds to be?
Sure. So I feel like with Cricut and laser cutting, the two are
Uh-huh.
much more similar because you are working with vector
Yes.
files.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can engrave a raster file with a laser cutter, but most of the time you're working in vector. And so coming from Cricut, it really was just sort of a step over. It's like, okay, I have this vector file, and I mean, I can pull up, if you want, I can pull up Affinity and show you kind of how SVGs work and all of that, if that would help.
No, you can
Sure.
just talk. Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. Yes,
Sure.
please.
No, whatever
Yeah.
you would. I'm game
Yeah.
for everything.
Yes,
Okay.
tell us, show us.
Yeah. So give me 1 second for Affinity to launch because it was sleeping. But so, I mean, vector files, if anybody, I don't know if anybody's familiar. So most of the time when you're talking about graphic art, you've got two different formats. You've got vector files and then you've got raster images. So
Okay.
raster images are kind of this common like pixel art. So like any JPEG image, for example, that's a very common file type. That's a raster. Basically, these are dots of color. Typically, if you're printing, it's 300 dots per inch. That's the general. You're going to want to print to get a good sort of image resolution. You're going to want to do that and print at least at 300 dots per inch. And then for a vector file, it is, I'm scrolling through trying to pick one that I've got open here. Yeah, we'll open this one.
Are you ready for your screen to come on?
Give me 1 second. Let me open up, and I gotta flip which screen I'm sharing. Let me go to present here. And I want to share this one. Okay. Yep, I'm good now.
Right. Here we come. Ooh, and it's Cthulhu, isn't it?
It is Cthulhu. So I was like, what do I have sitting here? Oh, here's my Cthulhu pin that I was playing around at one point with. So this is a, we're good. So this is a vector file. And is made of what's called curves. So these are, rather than this being like dots to create a picture, these are actually lines and points that are calculated. So vector files are often much smaller, but what's nice about it is that they are infinitely scalable. If I shrink Cthulhu, if I select all of them, if I were to shrink Cthulhu down, like this just kind of recalculates it. It's all sort of the same information. Those lines are going to be the same, precise, if they're this size or if they're this size. So that's what's really nice about vector files, is this infinite resolution, if you will. And so with Cricut, if you're cutting, for instance, vector, or with Cricut for vector, goodness, vinyl. It makes words up a lot. So if you're cutting vinyl, a lot of times you're usually going to be working in this sort of vector format, these SVGs. So like, for instance, this line here was sort of my border, if you will, for like, I think this is set up sort of like to run through my laser cutter. So I usually color code it. So like the black line here would be what I would set my laser cutter to cut. But then I could also easily just open this up in Cricut and it will know to cut this shape.
Oh.
Yeah, they're actually, it's the same. And if you use Lightburn, which is sort of an industry standard,
I've used Lightburn before.
Yeah, it's the same kind of vector editing software there. You can create kind of change nodes and all of that. And if I were to go in here, for instance, and edit, you'll see that it's made up of points. that have like these curves and beziers. So that's kind of how that works. And then the inside area is another curve that it's created. I just happen to have this filled to red so that, you know, this wood area would be like engraved out. So that's it. Yeah. So which isn't really something that Cricut would do, but it could certainly read this as another shape that I wanted to cut out. So that's kind of how the two are the same. In terms of then working with 3D printing, a lot of like my enamel pins as well as other things I actually start in sort of a vector format. Usually I start with, I'll kind of create it. A lot of times I honestly work in Procreate. I really like just kind of the raster, and I'll kind of sort of set up this black and white kind of image, and then I will actually export it out, and I'll go online to an online converter, and it will convert it to a DXF file for me, because that seems to be what Shaper 3D likes the most. And then I just kind of extrude it to make it however big I need it to be.
And is that how you make your designs for
the pins?
For design for your pens and things like that? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually, let me.
When you're designing those pens, are you bringing up the edges so that it contains the resin, or is that something that you really don't worry too much about?
No, I actually do that. I was looking to pull one up here. Oh, it's funny that it won't let me change. Let me flip my screen here real quick. It's funny that it won't let me. I'm new to this, so I'm like having and have a big wide screen.
Okay.
I'm flipping between applications here. So this is Shaper 3D. This is one of my favorite sort of CAD software.
It's what Layer by Layer Creations uses. He was a guest early on.
Yes,
the show.
and you use Shaper 3D. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it because you can use it on the iPad.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so it's multi OS, if you will.
Okay.
You can only have. There's some limitations if you don't have their subscription. It was one of those. It's like I'm willing to pay for the subscription, but yeah, you can see where it's like this actually started as. If I zoom, well, I obviously have shrink it down, but this is, you can see the original. Wow. Oh, here it is. That's right. I'm looking. They've added the history feature. I'm still kind of getting used to that. So if I were to hide my pin and bring up, is it this one? Nope, that's another pin. Let me go in here. No, just probably this one here. Yep. This is like an SVG that gets imported. And then what's really nice with Shaper is I can actually just kind of click these, and then I can bring them up. However I want them.
Individual vectors you can bring to a certain depth, whatever you like.
Yep, that is
right. And what do you use to convert to SVG? Do you use Convertio, or what else, or what is?
I do. I use Convertio. So I'll either convert it from SVG, or I will. It actually converts the PNGs to DXF pretty well too. As long as it's like a nice, clean black and white line, it seems to understand that pretty well. Yeah, but that's how I make my little pins.
I'm glad that I'm using the same software that somebody making money on 3D printing is using. That's for sure. Convertio is good, and so now this is a really great example of like a two-dimensional object that you've given depth to and have multiple layers and stuff like that. And then you've also got something that we wanted you to show us about taking that same concept and being able to use it in the 3D printing era with Bamboo.
Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead. You continue with this. This looks the B.
This was another. You were talking about 3D, and I was like, oh yeah, I do have something 3D. I've got my.
Yeah.
I've never seen these bees.
Yeah. So this.
And if I recall correctly, Sarah has a video going in depth of this process with the bee and the daisy. Actually, I know for sure because I learned a couple things about Bamboo Studio watching your video.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was quite a challenge. Lots of little things that I fixed here and there with it. More so just getting it so that I could, translate the colors over. So you can actually do like multiple parts. So for instance, you'll see I've like named everything. And then when I went to export it over into Bamboo, and I tell it that, this folder is, or when I bring in an object is like, it has multiple parts. Is this all, should I load this as an object with multiple parts? And I said, yes. And then these all come over with the label. So it makes coloring them very easy. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a beautiful, it's what I like about this particular design is that it's so straightforward, but it communicates exactly what it is that you want to get across without a ton of complexity either.
Yeah, I definitely like the really cute kawaii stuff, and it's a very simplified kind of design. So that works in my favor. At least I'm not super good at like very realistic drawing, all of that, but I like to draw cute stuff. I like to make cute stuff in general. So that's kind of, anytime I do experiments on my channel, like I just did like one with like using acrylic welding, which is where you can actually layer 2 pieces of acrylic and cut it in your laser, and and it will fuse the edges. And I was doing it with like this little nail polish design that I made. I was like,
oh yeah,
have fun with this.
Yeah. My goodness. Now, and now, did any of your Bachelor's of Fine Arts training go into your digital design capabilities nowadays, or did you wind up picking this all up recently, Sarah?
So I've always liked doing art. I would say some of it has translated. I mean, having done the 3D modeling back then, those skills definitely translated. Honestly, those skills translated in organic chemistry class, in stereochemistry, when they're making you rotate the molecules on a test. It was a test. It took everybody, and I was like down 20 minutes early, and I was like the B
you guys
student.
Didn't get that?
I like handed a test to my teacher, and she's like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "The whole point of this chapter was just to be able to rotate a molecule in your head, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's it." I'm like, "Okay." I mean, 4 years of playing around with that, it comes in handy. So some of that did. So some of that did play a role. I will say I don't think, and this might just be sort of the university setup that I was at. I don't think as much. I don't think I learned as much technical software skills as I would have liked, unfortunately. So I have had to kind of learn things, but I love to learn. So I'm always kind of up for a challenge. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's definitely the maker spirit. And a lot of us have learned through much the same way, not being willing to go ahead and learn something new in order to bring something into reality. So that's great. Yeah.
And on the subject of learning something new, you've also been learning how to make a business out of everything, right?
Yeah, I'm trying. So I'm trying. I'm slowly figuring this out, slowly, putting myself out there. I love making content. I love showing everybody this. It would be nice if, eventually some of this will pay the bills. That would be absolutely awesome. But you definitely have to have a passion for teaching and learning to run a YouTube channel, I think.
Yeah, Amazon Prime's $12 a month. So, that's a bill it can pay. Yeah, start somewhere. Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. I mean, and it's one of those things also where it's like, when you get down to like the actual YouTube statistics, it's like the fact that I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm doing better than 90% of YouTube. That was kind of scary to think about. It was like, wow, I'm doing better than that many. So I keep telling people, so I keep going, do this for a passion, don't necessarily want to, try and make thousands and thousands of dollars a month, especially not right off the bat. It ain't gonna happen right off the bat.
Yeah,
so.
no.
But I really, honestly, just seeing other people go, this was so helpful, and being able to, get that feedback, that like today, getting that comment going, hey, I took this method. I was like, I don't have sublimation paper, but I have infusible ink paper. And I threw that on my printer, and guess what? It worked. Like, that made me so excited. I was like, I didn't even think of that, but that's awesome to know that works too, because it is much easier to go run to, you could even honestly find that at Walmart nowadays. They have a Cricut section where, you can pick those up. So that's, it makes things more available. And I like, now that things are starting to take off, I'm trying to expand the community a little bit and kind of start a Discord, because I think with the Bamboo printers being more turnkey now, I think it's enabling other people to want to 3D print. I actually, when I went to the festival on the 4th of July, I had a couple people mention, hey, they had a 3D print, like moms of usually kids. So I wonder if they're seeing videos of that. One mom had a little boy who's like, they had just gotten like an A1 or an A1 mini, and she was talking about like they were having print fails, and I was like, okay, define the print fail. And she was like, well, things aren't sticking to the bed. How do I fix that? And I also had like, you know, another little girl that was like, I'm asking for a 3D printer for Christmas. And that made my heart melt. I was like, oh my God, you're so cute. It's like, how old are you? You're so cute. That's an awesome thing. And Daddy's standing there. He's like, it's like, I think we were looking at the P1P. And I was like, yeah, that's a good one to start with. But you definitely, I feel like having had the Ender 3, I learned some of these basics, like how do you level things? How do you deal with print fails? How do I deal with, you know, clogs and all of that? And, you know, if you're starting with the, you know, the bamboo models or the little more turnkey, I don't think you necessarily get that initial basics. And so I want to be able to, you know, have a place where people can ask those questions. And I hope to actually do a couple of videos in the near future where I'm just kind of doing that initial, you know, here, you know, unboxing and how do we set things up and such. And I know there's other models on the market that people like. I know some people are fans of Prusa and such, and I get that. I got my big
devil.
I know, I saw that and I was like, no, I totally get it. It's just, I got my P1S and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. So
it's, you know,
Sarah, I have both. I have the Prusa, and I have a little bamboo mini too.
I've got something on the order of 12 3D printers, and some of 8-bit, 32-bit, and I've got a bamboo. So I've been through the whole thing. And it's interesting, Sarah, that you say that this whole 3D printing thing is just about to take off. When I learned that Vicky was into 3D printing, I think she might have been the second or the third person I've ever talked to that was a 3D printing person. So, and I've been 3D printing for about a year or so. So yes, things are starting to take off. But like it's getting exponential. Like it was kind of drip. What do you, and then East Coast Rip Rap Festival came on. The Midwest Rip Rap Festival was out there. So look at that. So yeah, things are taking off for sure. And
I have my second one on order. It's going to be here Friday. I'm getting another P1S.
Okay. All right, great.
Yeah,
great.
it's like it works. It's doing its job. It's funny because it's one of those where it's like one has been enough for a while, but as I'm doing more like fine-tune things with like the 0.2 millimeter nozzle, I want to like start something else that it's like,
yes,
it's occupied. Or even though the changing out, I definitely like how it's much easier to change out the nozzles, not having to, with the Ender, I was having to heat things up and it was a little frustrating. This time I just
fingers taking it apart. Yeah, it's no fun.
Yes. I mean, the complete nozzle head change out for the bamboo is really nice. It's like, I shut it down, 2 screws, pop it off, as long as I make sure I plug the connectors in. So that's been that is a really nice feature. Got to give them props where props are due. So not that they're sponsoring me, I promise.
No.
It's just I'm very passionate about my bamboo.
It's been a tool that's kind of helped you to expand your practice and really kind of have the practice flow with your thoughts and you can get more and more possibilities off of that. And there's no two ways about that. That's wonderful, no matter who manufactures it. But one thing that we talked about was that we wanted to know about, and I'm very eager to see how you might be able to show us how to do it, is the keychain function on Bamboo Studio.
Oh, yes, we were talking about that earlier. So let me clear out a couple of.
I've got an 11-year-old that I think this will really impress.
Yeah. So this definitely takes advantage of the multi-material system, and this is sort of an alternative. I don't know if you guys have heard of HueForge with the filament.
Yes. Yeah. So I own HueForge, and actually I'm a HueForge practitioner.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. So I've done some of them. I'm still struggling with color aware mode. I know there's tutorials with it. I'm still struggling a little bit with it. Oh dang. I don't know if I have a picture of it, or there might be a short on my channel of it. My mom wanted a cake topper for my nephew's recent 7-year-old birthday, and he wanted a Pokemon thing. So I put that together, and I managed to get pretty decent color aware, playing around with it a little bit. But it was one of those where it was like, I think I was on version 11 by the time I got it where I wanted.
Yeah.
So this is a slightly easier method, and it gives good results. Like I'll show you guys. This is the print version of it. There it is. Yes.
Oh, wow. Look
It's
at
a little
that.
late.
Woo.
Yeah, it worked. I was decently happy with the turnout. I think I had to print it maybe 3 times just because I wasn't, well, admittedly once was a failure print that I missed, but getting the skin color and all of that was a bit of a challenge, but it did turn out pretty nice. And that was using the Hue Forge style, but this is a little different. This does require you having the AMS because it will do multiple colors per layer. So I usually have mine set up so that it's only doing about half the bookmark, about 0.5. And I will say one of the nice things about using the 0.2 millimeter nozzle is it's not purging nearly as much material.
Oh.
So, but
that makes sense. Yeah.
I never would have thought of that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Like I'm one of those people where I try to be sustainable. So I never print anything unless I can get my filament purge down as much as possible. I absolutely will not print anything if it's more than I'm losing more filament than I'm printing. I absolutely will not do that. I was actually kind of surprised with the ratio. So I'll flip over. So my share screen. Here we go. So this is the Maker World website, and they've got kind of this place up here called Maker Lab. And these are some of these different sort of design elements they've played with. I haven't played around with all of them, but they have this feature called Image to Keychain. Yeah, new. And what's really nice is you can import a picture. You can kind of create from a blank. So for instance, I will just kind of use my kitty. I'll bring in and you can bring in any image you want. So it doesn't have to be anything super exciting. So this was I don't know where I found this pattern. So I do not claim the design pattern, but anyway, I had this one and I set it up in the shape of the bookmark that I wanted. And then it's really just a matter of playing with settings. I usually tell it 0.5 and then confirm, and it will process the image. It does a pretty good job flipping it to sort of a vector design. And again, I'm using clean lines, so that does play a little bit of a role. Oh, and even now, this is a new feature where it'll actually try and reduce the colors going in. So like, for instance, if I only want this to be 4 color
kind of
or
like
8
that
color.
pink and gray.
So I'm going to start with 8, and then I usually go in and flip things a little bit. Okay, so it wants to try and I don't know why I didn't pick up white. That's weird. So but that's an easy fix. So this, I want you to pick white. There we go.
Oh.
But it will show you like where these colors are. Like this is number 7. So for my little guy, this was okay. For my little guy, I was doing it sort of in an orange, and then this one here. Okay, so it's thinking. So yeah, so you can kind of control the colors a little bit. And reduce it down as well. Like for instance, it's got, both these as 6s, but these 2 colors are very similar. I don't see a reason for having 2. So I can kind of, redundant, just like redundancy here as well. It's like, there's no point for that. And then maybe if I want to do like, that's kind of how I did that. I think maybe, those are both gray, and then clean it up and it'll clear out colors, and it's shrunk it down quite a bit so that it's just the black, the white, the gray, and the pink. Wow. And there's even like here, it's like, I don't really need, where's that orange? Oh, it's on the outside. I don't need that. Let me shrink that. Let me get rid of that. There we go. That's even better. So so now I've shrunk it down to 5 colors. So more manageable design. I've got enough for 8, but Also, it's not really necessary. But then once you have that, you can go over, you can play around. You can actually, if you wanted to, it will do a front and back. It'll mirror the front and the back. I usually just kind of leave the back blank when I'm working with it.
Mirroring the front and the back, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that is, and that's new. So they've I should have read that update when I opened it up. I didn't. So that's a new feature. Usually I just kind of do the back as being sort of just a single color, and you can control that thickness as well. So if my image thickness is 0.5, I usually leave it 0.5. I found 1 millimeter gave me just enough of a sturdiness, but it also felt flexible enough as a bookmark. So, and if you wanted to, you can enable face down mode. I opted not to, but then pretty much you click download, and you can download as a 3MF.
Oh, okay.
So
it already has all the instructions with it.
Yeah, and then it has all the instructions with it. So I will flip over real quick to my, because I already kind of loaded this. Here we go. So this is the bookmark loaded, and I tried to fill my bed as much as possible.
Which is one of those great strategies of minimizing your poop.
Yes, minimizing poop. And then once it slices, which sometimes takes a while for, our computers, but I had it definitely minimized the amount of material.
Wonderful. And have you manipulated your settings to minimize material, or you just manipulate how much you're going to print of an object?
No, I also go into the flushing volumes up here.
Yeah.
And I for instance, this loaded it and it didn't, but I usually can get away with 0.5 or 0.4.
And what's the default?
The default is 1.
Okay.
I thought they had changed it, and it used to be that it was 0.5. Yeah, and then I'll have it recalculated. And sometimes it thinks, oh, this isn't enough, but I think that'll be enough. So, and it's going to want me to reslice again because I changed my flushing volumes, but it's done most of the code work now. Here we go. So that's my numbers. And if I want, let me flip back over to grams. I really wish there was like a magic button that would do both, but here we go. So yeah, so the models actually, doing 5 of these will use almost 54 grams. I'm actually only flushing 2.
All right.
So I was like, oh, I'm pretty happy with that. That's a pretty good ratio.
That's spectacular. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing
no problem.
That. That's great. And I also noticed it doesn't look like you've got. It looks like you don't have more than 1 purge line. I've seen 4 or 5 purge lines on the bamboo.
So that is what you're probably seeing is the settings for the X1 carbon, the X1C, the P1S, or the P1S and the P1P just do a single line.
Okay, and so
I think it does it sort of, and it analyzes. It tries to look at those lines to make sure everything looks right before it keeps going. So there's no analyzing AI feature, if you will, built into the P1S and the P1P. So they just do a single line.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
3D printing is not wrong. There's a lot of, I've seen that comment a couple times. Yeah. I mean, technically my pins have some depth to them. I mean, they are,
No. Here's the thing though, is that
show it again, Sarah.
Oh, the milk one? Sure. Yeah. I'm technically there's some depth to it if I can get it to focus. There we go.
Right.
So I just fill it with resin.
I saw one of your designs that was an octopus that had texture on the tentacles. It was a gray octopus, but it was a while ago that you made that print. But that was something that had impressed me, is that you do have 3-dimensional designs, and those 3-dimensional designs.
I do.
And you affected your speaker.
They're deep too. They're deep. They're very detailed. They've got texture and height and depth. And there you go. Yeah.
I designed these. I haven't sold any of these, but these are actually MagSafe chargers. So if you have an iPhone, you can put the MagSafe charger in there. It'll actually set, and your phone will sit and turn into sort of a I can pull it. Yeah, I can't pull it. Oh well, I have mine sitting here
It's
that I've
lit from
designed
the
as well.
inside. Oh.
Yep, it runs through. It's hollow, but it is a 3D design. I kind of used a 2D design in sort of black and white to try and mimic sort of the effect from a lithophane.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had it like create like the lithophane sphere, and then I like brought it into Shaper and stuck it on the how it worked, it was crazy. Like I'm still kind of staring at it going, I think I engaged Voodoo to make it, but I do 3D prints.
No, you do.
Like, I think this counts.
And you know what though, the thing about it, Sarah, is that we're all products of where we came from, right? You started out with Cricut, then you went to laser, and then you went to 3D printing. You know, next month you're going to be making do versions of the Eiffel Tower or something. So it's but when people understand where people are coming from, it's very understandable that coming off the plate is maybe is an afterthought. If you have something that you like, that pleases you, that does exactly what you want, hey man, higher, taller, bigger, it's just a detail. It's a mental thing.
It is.
So
and
yeah,
it's fun
I really like
do.
Pardon me?
It is, and it's fun to do stuff in 3D. I'm still working on it. I think if I had more time in Blender and things like that, I think I would definitely do a little more 3D printing. But I have this. I'm gonna unplug it so that I can actually pull it. Cord management on your desk. But this is another one.
Oh wow! Look at that.
That one took days, right?
This one took days. This one was way more material wasted than I ever want to do. I'm like, it looks beautiful. I'm definitely never selling it. Really but
0.2 millimeters there. 0.2.
No, this is 0.4.
Really?
Yes. No. I think is asking about the layer height, or are you asking about the nozzle?
I'm asking about the nozzle.
Oh, okay.
This was a 0.4. Yeah, this was a 0.4. Yeah, this was a 0.4.
And that took you days to print. You started on
because of the color changes, and then I was having like my backups and all of that. Yeah. In hindsight, I definitely having done some changes like this. In hindsight, I feel like it would have made more sense just to take a black acrylic paint marker and done the black by hand.
No.
Because black, like the Polyterra black takes so much to purge out, and even then you can still see it.
Well, while it may be true, that is a very, very wonderful example of what you're trying to do. So the technology will catch up with your brain eventually. Don't break the marker out. Don't break that marker out. Stick with it. You're gonna be just fine.
I mean, I still recommend it for like little things. Like my mom wanted a flamingo, like a decorative flamingo, because she loves flamingos, and the model was like pink and orange, but then it wanted like blacks for the beak and like the eyes. And honestly, the marker worked just fine for those little areas. I was able to do it. So
I hear you. Well, yeah, it does take a lot.
Why waste it?
I love it. Does take a lot to purge black.
That hides the top. So you're in terms of like getting the top of the spear to be nice and smooth. It printed it from the bottom up. So this was where it was on the plate. Bamboo has a really nice feature where I'll show you on my let me open this one. Actually, I've got another one that's sitting on my that I can load and show. Bamboo has, and I guess this would be a good way to do how would you slice that, if you will. Because this is about slicing. So yeah, with this model, it's a spear. So one of the nice things about the Bamboo Studio is that it has this option where you can do variable layer height. So, and it will kind of calculate it. So I actually have it set up so that as it was getting to areas where it was much smaller, the layers were shrinking down, and it was reducing it to like where it was only 0.08 versus the rest of it being like the 0.2. So that actually enabled a much smoother top.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a really nice little feature in the software that I took advantage of to get sort of that nice round.
Wonderful. And you haven't sold any yet, but you will though.
I hope so. I hope so. So these are made to order. So so I like because I don't want to like keep them in stock, but these are made to order, but I do sell them. So they're
Wonderful.
available in my shop if anybody feels compulsion. No, I did have one. One of my coworkers was like, I watched her video and she asked for the ocean themed one. She's like, but could you possibly do it in purple? And I'm like, oh, you mean these two colors? You know, go to your giant filament pile that you've got of all the colors. And it's like, I've got this one, I've got this one. This duotone I think would work well.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
With your shop, you have two, right? You have your own website, but you also have an Etsy shop too?
I do. Yeah, I have some of the stuff on Etsy as well. That's where I started, and eventually I've kind of expanded to my .com. So it doesn't have a lot of sales yet, but it's also summertime. I feel like things just kind of will trickle in as the holidays.
A follow-up question I was going to ask you. This is your first holiday season coming up on Etsy, right?
This is my second.
Oh, you're second. Okay, so you know the deal then.
Yes, and I had I put a couple ornament designs. They were laser cut ornament designs that for like larger families. It was actually something that, again, a family member had requested, and I was like, okay, I'm going to just throw this design up on Etsy, and I ended up, I think, selling 50 or 60. It was steady work. I wasn't overwhelmed for the holidays. I think that, which made people really happy, because it was like they'd order an ornament and I could ship it to them in a couple of days because the balance was good. I actually got like an email. Somebody like took the time to write an email about how appreciative they were because somebody else had like failed to deliver in time and they didn't think they would get it. And like they had ordered like, I don't know, the 15th or the 16th, and they had it in their hand by the 20th. So we'll see what the season does, since I already have those, the 5 stars and all of that. So, but yeah.
So a quick note to anybody watching who is thinking of opening an Etsy shop: don't despair. Don't think like, oh, my stuff doesn't sell until you get through a holiday season. Just,
you will easily do more in the holiday season than you will do for the rest of the year, I promise.
And also, just so you know, the holiday season, I start seeing an uptick in September. And then I think early on, I thought, oh, I just need to have everything up by Cyber Week. No, like people, the orders are ramping up as early as September. And
I already had 2 people like email me and asking, hey, this says 2023. Is this going to be updated for 2024? And I'm like, well, yeah, I need to update the pictures. I mean, it's July 1st. It's like, I'm going to have to go in there and, change that number out. But yeah, it will say Christmas 2024.
Yeah. No time machines here. Not yet.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, as usual, this whole hour flew by. Sarah, I know you probably have a mini human to get back to, right?
She is chilling in her room. I'll see whether or not she fell asleep or not. But yeah.
Nice. But thank you so much for giving us so much of your time and sharing your experience, and also inspired me to check out the sublimation and helping make 3D printing look attainable to people.
Yes.
I love your channel. I love I ordered a sticker. I mentioned in the chat. Sarah's shirt says "easily distracted by lasers and extruders," and I have a little sticker version. And and I guess since we're here and wrapping up the show, well, wait, first, before we get to us, I want to make sure everybody, please take a moment and go to Sarah's YouTube station at Labcraft Studio, and go ahead and make sure to subscribe. I think she's making some excellent content, and maybe she'll inspire you to take on some projects. If you're interested in buying anything like a easily distracted by lasers and extruders sticker, you can go to her website at labcraftstudio.com, and you can also find her on Etsy as well. On the social medias, you can find her on Instagram and I believe TikTok. I couldn't find you on X though. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I'm not a huge fan of Twitter.
Not for everybody.
So, no.
Absolutely.
All right. And then, oh, you have something, Lauren?
Yeah, Sarah, I just want to say, if it hasn't already been obvious already, like for someone that's been 3D printing since, did you say March or May of 2023?
Yeah, March 2023.
March 23 to have sold something that somebody actually wants to buy a couple of times over, plus give stuff to your friends and family, and then to be on the most amazing web podcast. How would you slice that? You come a long way. You come a long
Thank
way. We're
you.
really excited to see how much further you're going to go. You're really doing more for yourself than maybe you even recognize right now. And so I want to just say thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate the things that you're doing.
I really appreciate that. It's one of those where you sometimes don't know if you're doing enough, and you both were like, "Wait, you've only been doing this a year?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Is that not enough?" It's gonna keep going. I promise.
Like mind
More than
blown
enough.
when you
It's
mentioned
more
that.
than
Yeah.
enough. More than enough. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm always willing to learn. So it's like you guys have given me an ideas, and yeah, I'm never afraid to admit that I don't know everything. A wise person knows that they do not know everything, and I definitely take that to heart. And it's like, nope, I don't know that. I'm gonna go look the answer up for.
Nice. All right. And then, oh, yes, I need to thank the chat. Everybody, thank you for being so engaged tonight and asking questions and shouting for Prusa and whatnot. How would you slice that? Lawrence and I are both working parents, so we only do episodes on Tuesdays that are prime numbers. Our next prime number will be August 13th, and hopefully we'll see some of you there. Again, try to hippity hop over to Sarah's channel and give her a like and a subscribe. And anybody else have anything? Then we're going to say goodbye. I'll see you August 13th. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Night. Have a good one.